Salutation friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing two fragrances from the house of Stephanie De Bruijn. These fragrances are both similar and also conflicting, and I've been absolutely in love with them, and I will tell you why. But first, let's review. First things first, these were sent to me by Maxaroma. They were sent to me for free to review, so humongous thank you to Maxaroma for these bottles. I was able to choose these two bottles out of the collection, and I wanted to choose two that both seemed like they would be similar and conflicting. Now recently I've been really into powdery, musky, kind of semi-transportive, very soft, sensual, exotic fragrances. And if you've noticed past reviews, recent acquisitions in my collection, it's just been something I've been craving. And these both fit the bill beautifully. And when I chose them, I really wanted to see how they would go. So Saint Honore, and I know I mispronounced that, I'm really bad at French. This one is more of a softer, sweeter, sultrier, kind of more, I would say, grounding scent. And Abu Dhabi is more of a transportive, spicy, ambery, musky, powdery scent. And so I thought it would be great to kind of review both of them for you. Now the price point for these fragrances are pretty good on Maxaroma.com. For 3.4 ounces of this, you're looking at spending $180, and 3.4 ounces of this, you're looking at spending $215. So they are on the slightly pricier side, but they're around the price of the higher end baseline for designer fragrances from like Dior and Chanel, and some of the more cheaper introductory corporate niche fragrances, like say from Francis Kurkdjian, Atelier Cologne, and fragrance houses like that. So I don't find these to be overpriced for what you smell. Now before I get into the review, there is one thing I wanted to talk about real quickly. So if you don't want me to talk about blending and smelling luxurious, if you just want to jump to the review, there'll be a timestamp below so you can just jump to it, because I'm going to talk to you guys about this for a few minutes, because I will be mentioning it when I compare these two fragrances and also when I review both of them. So when we look at fragrances and I smell fragrances, I've started to kind of explain what I mean, so hopefully you guys are picking up my cues when I say a fragrance has a texture, a flavor, exotic notes and spices might give off vibes of being cool or might give off vibes of being warm, but something that a lot of people say, and I say a lot too, is something smells expensive, something smells luxurious, something smells well blended. What does that mean? Especially for somebody that isn't trained. My nose, my olfactive palate isn't trained to be able to distinctively really pick up a lot of things. And for me, what that has to do with how the ingredients and everything commingles together on your skin. So sometimes when brands, and I'm not saying this brand, I'm just saying in general, when brands use a lot of synthetic ingredients, there's nothing wrong with synthetic ingredients. There's nothing that makes it inherently worse than natural. I think that's a preference. I myself enjoy natural perfumery, and I myself find myself craving some of the more common, very strong aroma chemicals out there. I think there's a time and place for everything. But something that you have to consider with some of these more synthetic ingredients is you have to kind of tame them and balance them and blend them properly. Otherwise, they can kind of smell more like an air freshener, a room diffuser oil, or something that you don't want to put on your skin. Now, when I say something smells well blended, when something smells luxurious, high-end, and elevated, what I'm talking about isn't so much just the attention to detail when it comes down to the quality of the ingredients used. It's the blending and the crafting and the finesse, and that comes with experience with a perfumer and sometimes even working with a house. A great example is if you ever cook with canned tomatoes, or if you're making a pumpkin pie. If I hit my little microphone, I'm sorry. I'm trying to redo my microphone. If you make a pumpkin pie from canned pumpkins, if you ever notice, if you use those ingredients, I always prefer to do everything fresh as much as possible, just because I'm one of those people, but there's nothing wrong with using canned stuff if you need to. but it has that kind of metallic taste to it. And some aroma chemicals, some synthetic ingredients can have almost that kind of sharp metallic undertone in the background that can cheapen all the hard work that people have put into kind of creating and blending and crafting a beautiful composition. Now, if you take those same ingredients, so if you take the canned pumpkin and you cook it a little bit and you give it a little bit of time and attention to detail and finesse, you can actually, in a lot of cases, cook out that metallic taste and give it a smoother and more palatable texture when you make your custard for your pumpkin pie. Or if you're using tomato sauce to make a, like, say, a spaghetti sauce, or, you know, a sauce or a soup or anything with tomato, you can take out that kind of sharp, acidic, metallic taste and actually start to cook out very slowly and gently and deliberately a lot of the sugars and the beautiful nuances that tomatoes can have. And you're using the same ingredients here, the same ingredients, the same cans. The difference is the finesse. So if I'm talking about a fragrance smelling luxurious, smelling well blended, smelling well crafted, sometimes it's not just about the quality of ingredients using, it's the experience and the finesse from the nose and the creative director and the team coming together, specifically usually the nose, coming together to create a fragrance. So a lot of times when you have these kind of more sharp stand out notes, so if you have things like musks and ambroxans and leathers and spices and all these things, they can conflict, they can contrast, they can smell sharp, they can smell fresh, they can smell spicy, they can smell metallic in ways that are almost off-putting and not adding to the composition. Now, something that I was pleasantly impressed with these fragrances is that they definitely smell very well blended and very well put together. And I enjoyed that very much, especially when they are on the skin. And as somebody who has been really kind of trying to eat and wear and just drown myself in powdery, gorgeous, skin-like musky scents, I was pleasantly surprised by these two fragrances. But just wanted to let you guys know my thoughts on that. I will be doing an entire video talking about what I mean by that, but I wanted to give you a little blurb in this because as we go into the notes and I talk about these, I'm going to be mentioning that. So if you were so inclined to know my wily little opinions on that, then there you go. And this one is fantastic. So there's vanilla, heliotrope, white musk, sandalwood, tonka bean, amber, and leather. Now, this smells on the skin. When you first spray it, it's powdery. It's like a blast of tonka bean and some stale vanilla beans. Like they've been sitting in your cabinet way too long. But there's something nice about that. Now that goes away within 5-10 minutes. And what it does is it warms up on your skin. The leather in here is what really makes this fragrance for me. Now I've talked before about some of my favorite desires for fragrances I want to see in the world, and a leather, almondy, sweet, powdery scent is like top of the list. This doesn't fit into that, what I would envision, but I like it a lot because I love how everything commingles together. So the almond in this isn't so much like a marzipan almond, it's not a nutty almond, it's not a pastry sweet praline-like almond. I would say it smells more like an almond extract. The almond in and of its smell kind of has that amaretto, slightly boozy undertone to it. Very, very light and very, very distinctive. That little bit of fruity amaretto-esque type of almond extract scent that it has kind of sweetens everything a little bit and smells really, really nice. This isn't a fruity fragrance. This is a powdery, leathery fragrance with some soft, sensual vanillas. But I love that the almond in there is very distinctive and very different. And I like that a lot of times you don't really get that amaretto-esque flavoring of almond. So when people flavor things with almond, when something has an almond flavor, not like a nutty almond, like when you're eating and crunching and biting into an almond, it's nutty and woody and a little bit earthy and sometimes salty. Or when you turn it into a marzipan, it's very sweet. It's kind of like how you think the clay you play with as a kid should taste. The almond flavor has this deep nutty fruitiness to it. And I usually say amaretto because most people understand what I mean when I say amaretto. That's the kind of distinctive almond note that this fragrance has. It's not creamy, it's not woody, it's not nutty, it's not lactonic. It's slightly fruity-esque, but almond. And it's not front and center, which I think works really well with the musks and the powder. Now, if you smell this like on a strip or like from the bottle or the cap, what I did, I actually sprayed like a piece of tissue, like a few pieces of tissue paper, and I put it under a big glass bowl for like an hour or two, and I smelled the air around it. I like to do that sometimes. I think it's the wrong way to do it. It smells heavy. This will smell overpowering, overbearing, vanilla, cloying, just headache-inducingly heavy. However, the reason why I love these light, ethereal, marshmallowy, musky fragrances is you gotta put them on your skin. And this one on the skin just smells beautiful and easy. And these types of fragrances, if I were to define a scent, I know I use the repetitive like mature, sophisticated, playful, flirty. I would describe these as effortless and chic. And what I like about this is it's delicious and slightly sexy and a little bit rebellious with the leather. And the leather in here doesn't smell too animalic, doesn't smell too overtly tanned or rugged. It's like a soft suede. And that soft suede works beautifully with the almond, works beautifully with the musks, works beautifully with the heliotrope. Everything comes together to be soft and sensual and powdery and beautiful, but not overpowering once it's on your skin. And I find it to just be really easy to wear and very, very beautiful. Now this is very soft and sensual and powdery, but actually the leather and the fact that it is more of an almond flavor and not something overtly sweet and candy-like does definitively make this more of a shared scent. And I like that this doesn't have a dated aspect to it, but it does have a timeless sense of maturity to it that I really enjoy. These have been the types of fragrances that I've been craving and I really like. Next and last, because I have two to share with you guys, we have Abu Dhabi. I mentioned before I grew up reading Garfield comics, watching the Garfield show. Every time I think of Abu Dhabi, I think of Garfield mailing Nirmal to Abu Dhabi. I'm sorry, I know it's silly. But this fragrance is beautiful. So this is also a powdery, musky fragrance, but it has a fresh spiciness to it. And that makes it distinctively different, but the muskiness is, to me, the powdery muskiness is what kind of connects them, but what separates them is the almond and the leather in the previous one, and in this one you have like saffron and bergamot, and it adds some spice, some exotic flair, and makes this more transportive. Notes in this fragrance, you have bergamot at the top, nutmeg, saffron, heliotrope, and Turkish rose at the heart, and at the base you have vetiver, musk, amber, patchouli, cedar, and sandalwood. Now, nutmeg is a note I love seeing in fragrance. I think that it is so fantastic because it has these beautiful, cool, peppery, spiced nuances to it. And it's cool because it's one of those kind of exotic spice aromatics that has a cool like vibe to it, like cinnamon has a hot, spicy vibe to it. And nutmeg is something that to me instantly transports a fragrance. It changes the game of a scent, especially when you can pick it up. It doesn't have to be front and center. It doesn't have to be center stage. But if you can just pick it up just a little bit, for me, it transforms a scent. It's kind of like cardamom and coriander. It's just one of those spices that is so distinctive and so unique. It really changes a scent. And I think that the addition of saffron that gives it this, again, this exotic spiciness and this freshness, again, really works well to add a nice, distinctive, completely different layer to something that is soft and aromatic and powdery and chic in a way that smells completely different but still very familiar of Saint Honore, the previous fragrance that I just reviewed. Now this fragrance is lighter and more effervescent on the skin, and it's also one to me that smells slightly more masculine. And I like that. I do. I like that the woods in here, although they are very distinctive woods and they usually are more front and center, they're kind of conflicting with each other in a way that plays on your skin in a way that smells unique, and I like that. Sometimes notes kind of meld and mesh and work really well, and they're very well blended, and they kind of come out and they smell very like, this is how I was supposed to make it work, and I made everything smell nice, and it just works well together, especially when you're using fragrances that have like those ambers, those sharpness, fresh spiciness to it. It can smell a little synthetic and it can smell a little bit not so well blended. But what I like is specifically the cedar and the sandalwood, they're almost kind of like frenemies in this fragrance. They're kind of fighting for center stage, and that makes it smell really interesting on the skin. It's not boring. You can kind of pick it up. Sometimes you pick up the cedarwood, sometimes you pick up the sandalwood, sometimes you get some of this really kind of grassy, nutty vetiver, which is really nice, and get some beautiful ambers. But from start to finish, you get this nice, soft, kind of powdery, effervescent musks, which I really enjoy. What I mean is this one smells a little bit more traveled. This one smells a little bit more transportive from the saffron, from the nutmeg. I like the bergamot. It gives it a bit of citrus brightness. It's more of an acidity in the opening of this and less of the creaminess that sometimes bergamot can have in fragrances. I like that there is a coolness to this fragrance from start to finish. And I like that there's a clarity of this fragrance. The clarity works really well because the cedarwood and the sandalwood are such distinctive woods that I feel that if there was any type of lactonic note, any type of soft, powdery creaminess, it would almost make those woods turn sour. And sometimes woody aromatic fragrances that are more on the sour side are really nice, but you want, again, that to be a deliberate, distinctive, I am creating this sour note to be something interesting on the skin and not a mistake, not something that wasn't blended and deliberate. And this has that kind of nice clarity from the bergamot, and it works really well to, again, kind of help elevate the woods, make them play nice together a little bit, but you can still pick up the distinctive nuanced qualities of each. And then you get the vetiver and the amber. And what I also really like is the translucent, very kind of Aquarian aspect of the rose in here. The Turkish rose, is start to finish, is front and center, but you don't really notice it. It's one of those notes that's in plain sight. So you smell it and you smell the rose, but it's not a big tea rose, a garden rose, a syrupy rose. The rose isn't so strong that it's overpowering everything, but when you smell it on your skin and you're smelling the softness, you're smelling the spices, you're smelling the woods, you're smelling the freshness, you realize, oh my goodness, rose is here start to finish, and I love it. I get a lot of people asking, what is a great masculine scent that has a distinctive rose fragrance. This is great. Fantastic. Definitely recommend, especially because the rose in here isn't big and sweet. It is big and just translucent and Aquarian and watery and beautiful and just very effervescent, but it is front and center, and you don't quite realize it until you smell the rose in there, because you're smelling everything else. Again, you're smelling the vetiver, you're smelling the woods, you're smelling the saffron, you're smelling the nutmeg, and then you get a whiff of the rose, and then you realize, dang flabbit, it's been there the whole time. And then you wear it again and you discover something new about this fragrance. And that's what I like. This one definitely is a little bit more exciting. It's a little bit more sexy. It's a little bit more bold. It's a little bit more rebellious because of the spices, because of the woods, because of that kind of added mystery and secret of this gorgeous Aquarian kind of translucent Turkish rose. There's just something about this that is really special and really beautiful. But I do like that it is kind of at its core a slight powdery musky scent. And as somebody who loves powdery musky fragrances, I've enjoyed this type of composition rather than what I normally get, which is kind of like the baby powder, heavily perfumed floral powdery musky fragrances, which I love. They're great. You give me those talcum powders, you give me those baby powders, baby white fragrances. I'm all about it. But I like that this is more exotic, a little bit more different, more transportive and special. So if you're looking for something that's very wearable, that has a nice effervescent musky quality to it, some powdery undertones, but really focuses on some exotic woods, special spices, and a nice rose, Abu Dhabi has been something that I've greatly enjoyed. Kind of quickly compare and contrast, these are both at their core powdery musky fragrances. If you don't like powder and you don't like musks, you're not gonna like these. You're not. However, the powders in these aren't the stale type of powders. They're not the bitter type of powders like that evokes the overripe lipsticks, which I also like those fragrances too, but not everybody likes those. So these are safer, less intimidating powdery fragrances, and the musks tame them. And to me, whenever I smell those slight musky, marshmallowy, billowy, powdery musky fragrances, to me they remind me of fresh, clean skin. That's just my opinion. And so I immediately am drawn to the freshness and the softness. There's something very chic, something very effortless and very sexy about that. And I enjoy it very much, and it's something I've been wearing a lot of. There's no saltiness in this fragrance in regards to it smelling like there's a salt note, but there's almost like the after taste of saltiness in the background of all of these, which I really enjoy with these types of fragrances. Again, fresh skin, I love it. If I had to choose one of these fragrances to wear every single day, a type of scent that I could wear day to night, a type of scent that I find would be appropriate to wear in heat and humidity, that I could dress up, that I could dress down, that I could also layer with a variety of different fragrances in my collection, I would definitely say Abu Dhabi. The fact that there is a little bit more effervescent aromatic woods in here makes this a little bit more versatile scent and a bit of a better investment, and I've talked about what investment means in fragrance collections, if you were to choose one over the other. It has to do more with the fact that there's a little bit more wearability, because not everyone is going to want to have those kind of richer, leathier, more fruitier, almondy type of fragrances in every situation, and sometimes in super hot weather and super humidity, you want those spices. You want that fresh spiciness. And if you search for complexity, this type of composition has a beautiful complexity to it and will work really well and beautifully in heat and humidity. So for somebody who lives in hot and humid weather, if you're looking for a fragrance to add to your collection that you could wear more every day, it's like kind of a dumb grab fragrance to add to your collection that you could just wear, that's beautiful and different and more signature scent worthy, I would say Abu Dhabi. But if you had to know my particular favorite, it's actually this one. So the reason why I like this the most has mostly to do with the distinctive almond note. Now don't get me wrong, I love this one. This one's great. I think it's fantastic. So I have no issues with this. And if I were to recommend a fragrance to purchase, again, this one, because I think it's a little bit more versatile and a little bit more of a safer recommendation if you were to purchase one over the other. But my particular taste when it comes down to powders and almonds and leathers and compositions does lend itself to the slightly more overbearing, challenging fragrances. And this in and of itself isn't a challenging fragrance, but I do like that you do get a stronger, denser powder on your skin. I like that the tonka bean is giving it the powder. I like that the almond is more of an amaretto, more of an almond extract flavoring rather than something nutty or overtly sweet. I like how it's light on the skin and smells very fresh, but you still get these beautiful kind of very indulgent and sexy suede-y nuances. I like the vanilla in this. I find this to be very sexy and chic. And guess who's not sexy? And guess who's not chic? And guess who's not put together? Nuh-uh. No, that is not me. So I try to do my best and be that as much as possible. And my fragrances normally, if I try to be sophisticated, if I try to be alluring, if I try to be elegant, usually try is the word, not succeed, but try. I do it with fragrance. So this has been one that I just find to smell elevated and special. Sometimes white musks can smell a little bit too like an air freshener on my skin. They smell too spiced, there's something about it that doesn't click on my skin. But this smells nice and fresh, and I love the almond in this. And you guys know that I love almonds. So this is my favorite, but I definitely adore Abu Dhabi too. But also do remember, these were sent to me to review. I do genuinely love these. My opinions are completely my own. Maxaroma has always been very wonderful and open and very enthusiastic with honest reviews, but that doesn't mean that these were not sent to me for free to review. So please take my review with any weight that you want with any free bottle review. But I figured I'd share these scents with you. I like the fact that they're kind of similar, a little bit different, and at the end of the day, they're gorgeous. I like them. So that is my review of these two guys. And if you had any opportunity to try any fragrances from this house or these particular scents, let me know what you guys think, positive or negative. Or if you have any other fragrances that happen to be powdery and musky and soft and sensual, just send them my way because I've been buying so many of them. It's been kind of what I've been buying recently. So just give me an excuse to buy more things. Let me know. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye.